Paul. I understand in reading this that there is a free lunch. Yes. Mhm. I'd like to do that. I'd like to spend a free lunch, but it seems that some of their statistics could be wrong. Yeah, as much as I dislike them telling a Christian magazine that I don't think you're telling the truth. DC lobbying is a $3 billion a year industry employing 11,000 people. I would have thought they spend a lot more in lobbying than $3 billion a year. Now, it sounds like, well, what if it was 30 billion a year? Pooch. Could you get me all of the employees of every lobbyist firm in the United States? Yes, that is lobbying. I had seen something on television about how certain individuals that lobby for other nations have to register, and supposedly there was somebody lobbying for Russia. Yeah, as if they're the bad guy of the world. Is that right? But you're supposed to fill out some sort of registration form about your involvement in foreign nations if you're involved in politics. Yeah. Does anybody know where those forms are? Because this whole concept of, well, I'm going to lobby for Russia, yes, but I'm not going to register as a lobbyist, yes, and then I'm going to set up all these side deals that when you're watching television, they make it sound like it always happens. I mean, nobody fills out this shit. I mean, what the fuck would you? You know what I mean? It's like I'm a registered lobbyist with an actual firm that lobbies the American government and then does lobby the government from other nations on the part of other nations. Yeah. But I didn't fill out my right form, and I'm not just here for the free lunch now. But I really feel that the media makes up stuff because of the intent of not knowing what's really going on. And does it seem somewhat cynical on my part to think that 11,000 people employed in an industry that only spends $3 billion, only 3 billion. Now, a lot of these lunches and meals that you get to go to, they look good to me. Isn't that right? The air conditioning contractors. Now, there are the Americans, right? They employ different individuals to want to influence the politics of the nation. And, my whole thought is we don't really need any more laws. I thought about exactly how this should work. No. Let's say you wrote an air conditioning law that you can't leak Freon into the atmosphere. And I'm like, now I think we should. And you have these governmental regulations. Yes, 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 yes. Did you ever think about the people that actually work in the industry where you're going to write the law for? Now, my thought was, well, why don't I give the legislation to 10 air conditioning contractors at various locations, have them read it and see if they can figure out what it says? Quite often, this use of legalese and lobbyists and 1,600-page legislations that nobody reads, they'll read it after it gets done. Isn't that right, Nancy? It would be a lot easier if we wrote the legislation and then gave it to the industry, not the professional lobbyists of the industry, but the actual employees, some guy that works for an air conditioning company. So I want you to read this and tell me if you understand what it says. It says that you can release as much Freon as you want. Pooch. Now, well, if you can't read the law, how are you supposed to know if you're violating it or not? Now, I have a real concern with laws that are so extensive that nobody can read them because they make absolutely no sense to anyone. Choo, 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 choo. But what if you stop passing laws? You wrote them, you gave them to somebody that the law affects. Ask them to read it and say, "Can you explain to me what this law says?" Yes. If they can't, I mean, they're just an average individual, an American citizen in any industry of this nation. I think you need to rewrite the laws so that the laws that affect the citizens affects them in the way that they understand what the law said. Oh, are you sure we're only spending $3 billion a year? They're not a council. They're not on a commission. What they are is an individual that will have to do what the law says. And if you don't let anybody in the real world read it before you pass it, how the fuck are they going to know they violated it?